How's it going, guys? My name is Pagona and welcome back to another one of my upcoming game talk type things. It's more of a podcast than anything really, if you think about it. But for those that don't know, this is basically a little mini series that I do where I basically just sit down and talk about brand new games that are coming out, and I basically specialize on one game per episode. So for I think the past two videos were done on Dinosaur Battlegrounds and the Isle, and I basically just sit down and talk about different aspects of the game, everything that's kind of known about the game, and basically what their plans are, release dates, etc, etc, etc. And it's a fun little video that I kind of put together just to inform you guys of new games, particularly dinosaur games, but I may expand into other things. Anyway, I think it's about time we get into this episode. We're basically just going to talk about a brand new game called Mesozoica. Now, for those of you that don't know, which I'm sure very few of you are in this category, but for those of you that don't know, a general idea, I guess, summary of what Mesozoica is a Jurassic Park Operation Genesis reboot. I think they've turned around and said that, I completely forgot what it, they said something, spiritual successor, that's the one. Mesozoica is the spiritual successor to Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, which I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know was like a Zoo Tycoon type game made for dinosaurs. It was basically Zoo Tycoon for Jurassic Park. And Mesozoica is just going to expand on that, really, and it really does look stunning. So we're going to jump in. Before I kind of talk about the game itself, I am going to state, blah blah blah. I'm going to state that everything that I'm saying right now may change, as this is not a finished game. It is by far a finished game. So mechanics, systems, ideas, etc, etc, just anything really that I talk about in this video may or may not change once the game is actually released. So keep that in mind, because they are, in about 2 hours time, they are going to be releasing the Kickstarter to it. So everything that I'm saying now is like a generalized overview of what is in the Kickstarter page, and I'm going to try and put in whatever I know about the game already. But I think they've pretty much covered everything in the Kickstarter project. So, without further ado, let's talk about Mesozoica. So, what is Mesozoica? Now, I have done a little mini summary of this already, but if any of you wanted a more fleshed out, I guess advanced, I'm air quoting now, advanced summary of what Mesozoica is, it is a theme park simulator in the vein of Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, that spiritual successor thing that I was talking about earlier. A game where you take prehistoric creatures and create several scenarios in a theme park of your own design. A land of opportunity where the player has free control over what he or she puts into his or her park. What he or she charges to enter the park, and how the prehistoric creatures look and create. So that generalized summary there is basically just an explanation of what it is, what it's similar to, and it gives you a very brief, and I mean very brief, overview of what sort of control that you have in the park, the sort of diversity you have. It's not just you make your own park, it's you make your own park, you can do whatever you want, you can control whatever you want, including things like what you put in, what you charge to enter, etc, 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 as well as changing how your prehistoric creatures look and create, more of which will be talked about later on. So they've basically got a couple of videos of dinosaur walking, just general walk cycles and renders and stuff, which is pretty cool. The animations are awesome. The models are also awesome. Not gonna deny, they are pretty awesome. But then it goes on to say that Mesozoica is different because it is evolutionary. It is one of the only Tycoon games to let you play the game through several different perspectives, as well as an optional but immense quest system. We will talk about these different perspectives later on, but again, it's just showing the huge diversity and how much more advanced this game is compared to Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. The project is also making strides in customization, which should allow the player to change everything from how their creatures look to how they react, again showing off the diversity of this game and how much you can customize. This game is really all about customizing and making your own park, and it is really, really interesting to see. And then it goes on to talk about the 3 different kingdoms. Again, this is leading off onto like a more specific path of diversity and how the game is different to others. It's all about the 3 kingdoms. Now the 3 kingdoms is just land, aquatic, and aerial. The 3 different, I guess, ecosystems. I'm going to go with ecosystems. The 3 different ecosystems that you can have in your park. And they just go on to say that, you know, life has not always existed on land. So why should a zoo only, or a zoo simulator, only give you creatures that live on land? There is no reason for that. You know, they should give you aerial creatures and sea creatures and possibly other creatures as well. I'm sure there are different biomes and stuff that you can use, or at least creatures from different biomes. I'm sure it isn't just grass, which is what the image is, but I'm sure there's things like snow, mountains, etc, etc. But it's just a general overview. So it then goes on to show you a I'm sorry, I can't name the creatures, but it goes on to show you a land creature, a sea creature, and an air creature, obviously. A Pteranodon, Mosasaur, and something else. It looks familiar. Don't know what it is. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, that general overview of the different creatures and where they come from and all that is really cool. And we'll go on to see, you know, more of how they're going to incorporate those creatures to the parks a little bit later on, in fact. In a minute, really. But it is really, really interesting to see this, because I mean, for those that don't know already, Jurassic Park Operation Genesis only had land creatures, and though that was kind of enough back then, nowadays you do kind of expect a lot more, and being able to have that is really, really interesting and kind of exciting, really. You know, sea creatures have always been something that have kind of wowed at least me anyway from the very start. I mean, Zoo Tycoon 2, I think it was one of the very first Tycoon games that I bought, and I adored it. I absolutely adored it. I think I bought every single expansion pack for that. At least I got it. I don't know if you had to buy it. I'm pretty sure you did. But I got every single expansion pack for that, and yeah, I mean, I love the aquatic creatures, and I loved all the different creatures that you can get in there, and you know, being able to have that in this as well is just awesome. But we're going on to building your park. So this is kind of talking about the building systems and how it kind of it's different to other games, and it is really, really interesting to see how they've done this. Of course, you've got the standard fences for your land creatures. You've got the low security fence, which is like your starter fence. You've got your level 1 fences, which are both herbivore and carnivores. They are actually 2 different fences, kind of like Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, which again, pretty cool, bringing back some of those mechanics and such. And then you got level 2 fences, which are obviously your hardcore heavy metal fences for your bigger dinosaurs, you know, because there is a huge variety of dinosaurs in this game, which you kind of have to look after, and in doing so, you kind of have to look after your visitors as well. Hence the big hefty fences. But it goes on to talk about how they've got a huge amount of diversity in the different prehistoric creatures. So since you're going to be playing from the manager perspective of your building, your park anyway, you want to build utilities, pens, and attractions, and etc, etc, etc. And in doing so, they've wanted a bunch of customization options, and because of that, they've decided to bring in a new style of hatchery. Now, from the concept art, I had a bit of trouble deciding what exactly it is, or at least how exactly it works, but I've come to the conclusion that this hatchery, or this nursery, as they've called it, in fact, it says right there on the caption, so excuse me, I am a little bit slow, be quiet. But in this concept art, you've got 4 different sections. And each of these 4 different sections can actually cater to 4 different creatures at one time. So this is basically like I guess similar to the Jurassic World Raptor pen, where you've kind of got a walkway over the top, but in this case, you've got in the middle like a big cargo bay type thing where food can obviously fly in, or you can fly dinosaurs out or something like that. But around that you've got 4 different hatchery cages, and obviously these can be different for whatever creature you want. And I think that's really cool, because one of the things that really let Jurassic Park Operation Genesis down was the fact that you had to buy a hatchery for every single one of your dinosaurs. Well, not necessarily every single one of them, but every single type of dinosaur. You had to put it in the enclosure if you played like me. I know you can technically make your own enclosure, put it in, you know, spawn dinosaurs that way and then fly them out. But in this case, you can do as many as you want using one nursery. And that's pretty cool. It really is. And it saves you having to make a new enclosure as well, because you can just, from the looks of it, yeah, you can fly the creature out of the nursery straight away to whatever enclosure you want, rather than having to spawn it into an enclosure, fly it out of the enclosure, and do it that way, I guess. So that's really cool. But then we move on to the different hatcheries as well. So I believe that was the nursery. Yes, it was. So the hatchery is also a little bit different. And again, this kind of, I guess, goes into how complex and diverse the game is. Now, in the concept art of the hatchery, I'm going to try and put it up on screen. It should be there already, but if not, I'm sorry. But if you can see, if you can't, just listen to me. But if you can see, the very top image is a general overview of what the hatchery is. So you've got the cargo bay, which is obviously where the either transporting the dinosaur goes in and out, or food or whatever. You then got a maintenance access point, because you are going to have to maintain these different utilities, I guess. Yeah, utilities. Excuse me, I got hiccups. And then you've got the actual enclosure or hatchery. But underneath that, you get to see the 3 different types of hatcheries. So you've got the dinosaur equipped hatchery, which is obviously like big ferns and stuff like that, kind of similar to the Jurassic Park Operation Genesis one, or just the Jurassic Park one, because that's what the raptor hatchery was. But then you've also got 2 more. You've got the Ice Age equipped hatchery, which looks to be some sort of moss or some sort of, I guess, tree or shrubbery or something like that. I can't quite tell. It is concept art, so you can't really see properly. Which again, it's just those little features that make this game a whole lot better and a little bit more realistic, if I'm being honest. But finally, you've got the marine equipped hatchery, which is just full of water, and just being able to see that really kind of, I guess, adds to the realism of the game, and it does make it that much more interesting and that much more exciting to play. And it does allow you to do things like separate your park into different areas, because if you go to most zoos and whatnot, and you know, nature reserves and stuff like that, they do segregate the animals. They do have like savanna animals in one area, not ice age, what am I about? Like Arctic animals in another area, and monkeys in another, I don't know. But in most games you can't do that, because all the enclosures look the exact same. But in this case, you could have all the dinosaur hatcheries in the dinosaur area, the marine hatcheries in the marine area, and the Ice Age hatcheries in the Ice Age area, and it all kind of goes well together, and it really is interesting. And personally, I'm excited for it for that reason. Not just that reason, but for that reason as well. But one thing that we did skip, and I skipped on purpose, is that there are 2 sonar fences. Now this goes towards the aquatic and the aerial creatures, but we're going to start off with the aquatic sonar fence. Now, from what I can understand, the general idea of this is you've got this main standard aquatic sonar fence. It's like what are they called? I can't remember what they're called. Little buoyancy things that I'm guessing will just sit there in the middle of your enclosure. And when I say enclosure, I have air quotes, because it's not technically an enclosure. You basically have this thing, and it sits there in the middle of your wannabe enclosure, and then you have different, I guess, sensors, if you want to call them sensors, and you put them around, and that's basically your fence. And the little caption underneath this picture is, aquatic fencing was never supposed to be bulky, and the general idea and purpose of this is that it acts more like an electric dog collar, if you want to call it that. So instead of having these huge fences that can keep in water, can keep in all the huge, and I mean huge creatures like the Mesozoica, you basically just have this sonar fence, and it makes an invisible shield around your area, or the area that you specify. And whenever a creature goes up to it, though it might not necessarily act like this in real life, it'll probably act more like a barrier. But it would technically shock the creature and whatnot, and it would basically force it to stay in a specified area. And that's really interesting because, again, it's going into the advancements of basically real world technology as well as advancements of game. This isn't just a dull game where everything's just fences and stuff. It is going to have a lot of diversity, and you know, this technically has a real world application in terms of, you know, if you did have huge creatures that you didn't want to spend so much money on fences, you could probably invest in something like this and it would probably be used, you know. And that's the best part about this game. It's not just all make-believe. I know it's dinosaurs in real world, but you know, a lot of this stuff has been really, really well thought out, and it is really interesting to see. But then we move on to the advanced aerial sonar fence. Now obviously aerial creatures don't necessarily need water, so this isn't another buoyancy type thing. This is something that's built on solid ground, but it acts in the exact same way. You know, this one will probably project like a dome-like force field up in the air, so they obviously can't get out, but it all works the same way. And again, instead of having a huge bulky dome that, if I'm being honest, looks ugly. I mean, Jurassic World managed to pull it off kind of, but I still think that giant glass dome was kind of just ugly. It's not nice to look at, and it does act like a giant greenhouse, and all the technical applications for this is kind of ridiculous, if I'm being honest. But this kind of makes it a little prettier to look at and a little bit more interesting, and it makes everything look a little bit more free and exciting rather than being enclosed in a big dome cage. So again, really is cool to see. But then we move on to two little videos, both of which show the building mechanics. Now obviously these will probably change every now and then just to kind of suit the purposes of suggestions and such. But the first building video, which I'm not going to show in this video, I mean, I might, I don't know, you might see it pop up, you might not. But the very first video shows you the fence building system, and it is basically just the Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, just kind of improved a little bit. So that's good to see. It's something that is simple to use, but has a lot of, I guess, I don't know what the right word would be, variety in how you can use it, I guess, to some extent. I don't know. I'm trying to make stuff up now. And the second one is the general building itself. So what looks to be a visitor center and a viewing platform, I guess that would be. It basically shows them placing down these buildings, yeah. Placing down the buildings and rotating them around and deleting them. And again, it's very similar to Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, which again is nice to see. You know, we're not going to have to sit here and learn all these new controls and such. It is going to be similar to the game, and similar to what we already know, which is always nice. Next up, we've got the prehistoric creatures. Now, I am not going to explain all the different creatures that have been shown on this Kickstarter page. There are a fair few, I won't deny that, but yeah, they've basically just got a very short description about how diverse this game is going to be and how many creatures they're planning to have. And I mean, these models are stunning. I'll get more onto that in a minute, but basically they just turn around and say, having a wide variety of prehistoric creatures to choose from is beyond important for Mesozoica. During our 9-month pre-development cycle, we tried to knock this challenge out as soon as we possibly could. Thanks to our top-tier modelers, we were able to accumulate, fancy word, a pre-development roster of 40 plus creatures, fully modeled, either animated or ready to be animated. And then it just shows a bunch, not all of them, keep that in mind, but a bunch of these creatures. And the fact that this game is not even in closed alpha yet, I mean, it will be very soon, but obviously this has all been prepared already. So, even though this game is not even in closed alpha yet, they've already got 40 plus creatures that are either modeled and ready to be animated or animated already, and possibly in the game itself. That is just so impressive. It really, really is. And it just shows how dedicated the team is. It shows how big their aspirations are for this game and how many creatures they're going to have in it. I mean, the fact that this is closed alpha and they've already got 40 plus creatures is unbelievable. You know, I could see that double by the end of the, the final game is out. I could even see that triple or quadruple, depending on how they go about their development cycle and such like that. So it really is stunning, and it just shows the diversity of the game itself. And it does show a lot of the models, and they are really, really good models. Obviously they won't look as good in real game because these are from what looks to be renders, like final renders of the not necessarily high poly models, but fairly detailed models. But when you put that in in-game engine, it does lose some of the quality. But they have released an image of an Allosaurus, I believe, in-game, and I'm just going to say this, it looks amazing. It really does look amazing. If any of you haven't seen it yet, be sure to go and check out their Facebook page, because they released it about 30 minutes ago, so about 11 o'clock my time, PM, on the 5th. So yeah, it is a really good looking game, especially for something like this. Anyway, let's move on to one of the most important things for both me as a YouTuber and them as a team of developers, and that's basically fan involvement. Now, if any of you don't quite understand why this is important, I'm just going to put it in my own words about myself. You know, I'm not huge on YouTube. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not a huge YouTube star. You guys are awesome. I've got great fans. I'm doing quite well YouTube wise, and I'm really happy about it. But for me, I would not be here unless it was for you guys. And because of that, I have I've got I don't know what the word, a moral outlook on how I should do everything in terms of YouTube. You know, if I was to get really, really far, a lot of YouTubers, you know, say I got 100,000 subscribers at some point or other, a lot of people's attitudes would be to stop replying to fans because they're too busy, or to not really care or anything like that. But for me, I would be there because of you guys. So for me, it would be my duty to, you know, repay the favor. If you guys have a question, ask it. I will try my hardest to answer. I really will. I will look through comments every now and then, all day long, just to reply to you guys and talk to you guys and keep that communication going. You know, even if I reach 1 million subscribers, which is probably unlikely, but it could be on the table, you don't know. But if I was to reach 1 million subscribers and 1 million of you guys were posting comments, I would try my goddamn hardest to reply to every single one of you, because I wouldn't be there without you. And for me, fan involvement is really important, because I want you guys to talk to me, ask me questions, all of that stuff. And for Mesozoica, it's the exact same, you know. Even if they don't finish this Kickstarter, you know, they have still got a huge fan base that love this game and want to see it grow, and they've got suggestions and everything. And Mesozoica have kind of turned around and said, look, we want to include anyone and everyone, you know. If you've got ideas, tell us, we'll consider them. We're not going to say, okay, that's a good idea, and then leave it. Or we're not just going to leave it. We're going to turn around and stick it on the development board and eventually come to a conclusion as to whether it's going to benefit the game or not, and put it in or just leave it. You know? For them, the fan base is huge. It really is. And, you know, they turn around and said here that over 9 months, we've seen concept skins, ideas, suggestions that make so much sense. And it literally just goes from the suggestion to the development board and done. And they're going to be as transparent as they possibly can with, you know, the entire project. They're going to talk to people. They're going to answer things. Yes, they want to keep surprises, but they want everyone to know what's going on. They want to know that they're working on the game, etc. And yeah, it's really important for me as a YouTuber. It's really important for me as a player of games to have that kind of transparency between the development team and me. And it's so cool that they're doing this. It really is. And you know, if any of you guys have got any questions, ask me if you want. I will try and get an answer. But seriously, go over to their forums, go over to their Facebook page, go over to their Twitch when they do a live stream, and I bet you any money you will get an answer at some point or other. So keep that in mind, and that is just so important to me. But again, throughout this entire Kickstarter page, we see a bunch of new models that we haven't seen before and stuff like that, but we also see the diversity of skins and stuff that you can get for creatures. If I scroll up a little bit, we see an Allosaurus, which is a fairly realistic skin, a fairly realistic representation of one might look like. It's kind of like a sandy, dirty, browny kind of color with like red kind of streaks across its eye. It could be black streaks, I don't know. But the idea is it's a fairly realistic representation of what one might look like. And that's cool, and it does look awesome. But you scroll down a little bit, and by a little bit I mean a little bit, and we see another one with an Iron Hunter skin, and this is basically just, they've basically turned around and made the most badass skin that they could possibly make for an Allosaurus. It's like a dark grey with black kind of triangle, like a diamond back, and red streaks, and it does look really cool, and it just suits it so much. But obviously it wouldn't look like that in real life, but it does show the diversity of the game and skins and all of that, and it's just so cool. It really is. So yeah, that's really all I can say on that front. Now, there are a few more sections, so we're going to talk about that. The next one is the art of music and sound. Now, a lot of indie developers have a decent soundtrack, but nothing too impressive. I'm not going to go and say that all indie games have got this stunning soundtrack that blows your mind. And I don't think Mesozoica is going to have a stunning soundtrack that blows your mind, but it's going to have a brilliant soundtrack. In fact, it already does, because in this section, they talk about how they've got a what am I on about? A spectacular sound and music department, which is actually led by Nicholas Rivera and Ryan Stunkel. Now we'll get back onto who they are in a minute, but there are two things that I want to talk about here. The first is Nicholas Rivera. Now he is I don't know what the correct term would be. I guess a sound specialist. He's a veteran sound specialist, and I believe he actually approached Mesozoica for this job, and he's made a bunch of really cool, and I mean cool, soundtracks, or just songs for the game's background and all of that, and they really are interesting, and they suit the game so well. They really do. So he is brilliant, he really is. And the second thing, and what I personally would say is the most important thing, is the sound effects. Now, obviously some of them are probably going to be sourced from somewhere, you know, it's just the way of the world. But Ryan Stunkel and I don't know their names. Oh well. Well, basically some of the team, if not all of the team, have been to a bunch of different, you know, zoos and animal sanctuaries and stuff like that, and they've gone and filmed realistic, and by realistic I mean real animal sounds, like crocodiles. They went to a gator farm and they recorded gator sounds, and probably crocodile sounds as well, and recorded them. And the best part about it is that they're using these sounds to make not necessarily authentic, but very cool and possibly realistic dinosaur noises, which I find really fascinating, because a lot of games would just take sound effects from like Jurassic Park and whatnot and put them in the game and say, look, we made it. But these guys are really going all out, and it just shows the dedication to the project. You know, they haven't just gone online and, you know, sourced some really kind of low quality sound effects and such. They've actually gone out and recorded their own stuff with some pretty decent equipment. And by pretty decent, I mean really decent. They got videos of them recording and such, a picture with them next to an alligator, and it really does show off their dedication to this game. It really does. The next kind of section I won't really talk about, but it's about the team. I don't know what everyone's role is, so that's why I'm not talking about it entirely. But if you guys want to have a look at it, you can. It's got pictures of them all, you know. Robert Fabiani, he's the 3D modeler. Nicholas Rivera is obviously a sound specialist. Max Wood, who's the lead developer. So if you guys want to check that out, you can. It's on their Kickstarter page. He's got a bunch of their collaborators, obviously people who do concept art and fan art and coding and stuff like that. Again, you can check that out if you want, but it's not too important to this project. And I think we've got 3 more sections. Yeah, 3 more sections. So I'm going to skip to the very bottom of the Kickstarter page. If you guys are following along, skip to the bottom. And it basically talks about the risks and challenges, but we're not going to talk about that exactly. We're going to talk about the development process. Now, this game has got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 5. Yeah, I'm losing count, I really am. it's got 5 different stages of the development process, written down in a fairly simple format. So I believe when the Kickstarter is released, people who have received access to the closed alpha will get the closed alpha. Now this is something that's only been handed out to a very select few people. I'm one of them. Yes. And it's basically for generalized testing. It's a very early game state, basic foundation of the game. Nothing too exciting, but it shows you kind of what they're heading towards, and it lets them work out very, 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 very bad bugs. So once that's done, they'll obviously update the game a little bit, release an open alpha, which is for everyone, I believe, who's purchased a specific Kickstarter reward. I don't know, pledge. For people who have put in a certain amount of money for the pledge on Kickstarter. And this will be a much larger testing group, bunch of new features added to the game, and yeah, between different stages and stuff, they'll update it and all that, which is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. But then we get on to the closed beta. Now, again, I think this is a much smaller group. So this will be smaller than the open alpha, but larger than the closed alpha. And the game will be getting to the point where it's quite enjoyable to play. And by enjoyable, I don't mean that the alpha is going to be boring. By no means is it going to be boring, but it's just going to have a little bit more in it to make it that much more entertainable, and less likely to get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. And this could come pretty much instantly after the open alpha, or it could come months and months and months after it. It all varies on the development process and how much money they make, but yeah, that should be good. But then obviously that goes into the open beta, and this is a much bigger audience. In fact, I think it's actually going to be open to everyone. I could be wrong, I don't know. Everyone who's bought the game, that is. And yeah, that's basically just going to be final checks on the game. It's going to be, play the game all you want. If you find a bug, report it. We'll fix it as quick as we can before the final release. And that's just going to polish out the game a little bit and make it that much more enjoyable for people who have bought the game and don't want to mess with that stuff. And then obviously you get the final release, and that's when everything happens. That's when the game has come together, and it is pretty. It's a pretty game. So yeah, that should be good. It should be really good. Now, we've got 2 more stages here. The very first stage, or very first section, is the rewards for backing. Now, if you pledge $5 or more, you are a new visitor. You get an everlasting thanks from the development team and an exclusive wallpaper and a backer-only forum badge. Now, I don't believe the backer-only forum badge will, give you access to any of the forums or private boards or anything like that. I think it is just a badge, but it does state that you've kind of given money to the project, and the development team really does thank you guys for it, and that's pretty cool. But obviously you can't expect too much for $5, so keep that in mind. Now for $15 you are a seasoned visitor. You get a copy of the game and all previous rewards, so that's where the game is. And for $15 this game is pretty cheap, if I'm being honest. So jump on that right now if you want to. Obviously the game's going to go up in price when it's finished, Kickstarter wise, and the game is released. So I'd jump on this right now. I really would. For $20 or more, you become a veteran visitor. You get beta access and your name in the credits, as well as all previous rewards. So along with a copy of the game, you get your name in the credits, which is obviously a great honor. And you get beta access. So as I was mentioning earlier, if you buy the game and you pay a certain amount, you will get beta access. And I believe that's open beta, not closed beta. If you get $25 or more, you become a park attendant. You get beta access, your name in the credits, and all previous rewards. Now this is if you obviously want to, give a bit more than $20, but not enough to move on to the next pledge. It's just kind of there as a reminder that you don't have to just do 20. If you do want to do more, but you can't afford the next stage, you can. So keep that in mind. The next proper one is $45. You become a park caretaker. You get open alpha access, which is obviously awesome. You get a digital soundtrack, an extra copy of Mesozoica, and all previous rewards. Now for $45, that's really, really good value for money, at least for me anyway. To get alpha access as well as 2 copies of Mesozoica and a digital soundtrack is pretty awesome. And again, they've gone and said $55 is the exact same, but keep in mind that it's just there to kind of remind you that you can give a bit more than $45 if you want to, especially if you can't afford any more than 75 or 65 or whatever. But the next one is 75. You become a park engineer. Your name will be given to one of the many visitor models that will tour your island in game, as well as all previous rewards. That personally would be a huge honor. I would love to walk around my park, admire all the visitors that are having a great time or a not so great time, and have my name pop up. Adam Taylor, done. And what would be even better is if I could pick up Adam Taylor, put him in a cage, and watch him get eaten by dinosaurs. How cool would that be? That'd be so cool. I'd do an entire series of that. That would be awesome. The next one is $125. You become an exhibitor. Your name will be given to one of the many visitor models that will tour your island in-game, and you get an exclusive Founders Visitor model. So not only will you get all previous rewards, but you also get an exclusive Founders Visitor model. I can't imagine it being too flamboyant, but it'll be there, and you know that every time you play this game, you'll see a guy with a little Visitor Founders model, and you know that you've given a lot of money to this project, and as well as all previous rewards, it's a pretty good deal. I would say it's a pretty good deal. The next one is $250. You become a scientist, apparently. You work with the development team and design an animal skin that will be in the game, and have your name memorialized in the credits of the game. Now, I believe the original credits is probably just a very quick thing at the end of the game or whatnot, and it's just a huge list of everyone that's kind of donated a little bit of money. But I believe that this one will be a little bit more special. I think you'll probably be in a special scientist credit section or something where there'll be very few people, and your name will be out there a little bit more, and I think that's pretty cool. But to be able to design your own dinosaur skin, that's more than worth $250, as well as all previous rewards. It really is cool. I'm glad they're doing something like this. So yeah, I don't know if that's just your game or not, but it's still pretty cool. Still pretty cool. Now we've got 2 more, and these are obviously the money bag pledges. The first one is $500. You become a chief architect. You get a prehistoric creature selection, an in-game exclusive prehistoric creature skin, an exclusive in-game helicopter model, and you get to Skype with the developers and choose an animal that will be in Mesozoica. So not only will you get an exclusive in-game helicopter model, which will probably be some sort of founder model, keep that in mind, but you also get an exclusive prehistoric creature in-game, which is obviously pretty cool. But you also get to go on Skype with the developers and decide an animal that will be in Mesozoica. And I'm guessing this could be any sort of creature, prehistoric-wise, that you could possibly imagine. I doubt you'll be able to pick a penguin and put that in-game. If you can, that'd be awesome. I would love a penguin. So if any of you do get this, get a penguin. Or ask for one. You might not get it, but yeah. And it's still pretty cool, it really is, and I think that's definitely worth $500, I really do. If I had the money, I would definitely do this. And the final one is $650. Again, they're not going to any extreme, it's not like 1,000, it's not like 10,000, it's just $650. I know that's a lot for some of you, but it's also not a lot for some of you as well. So, yeah. Anyway, for $650, you become a park founder. You get an exclusive founder item for your park. Oh, items. So you get more than one founder item for your park. An exclusive founder aquatic vehicle, and your name as a founder in the credits. So obviously having your name as a founder in the credits is just that much more special and that much more memorialized. But you also get the founder vehicles as well as all of the previous rewards. So it definitely, for an extra $150, yeah, $150 to get that, that's really impressive. It really is. So there are all the different pledge amounts. Obviously, if you want to, you can pledge more. You don't have to stick to $650. You can pledge more. Same goes for all of the others. You don't have to pledge just $5. You can pledge $10, anything like that. So keep that in mind. I've got hiccups. It's horrible. And finally, we've got the stretch goals, and this is basically a general overview of what they plan to add if they get over the money that they request or ask for, or their goal. Over their goal, that's the word. So they've got quite a small initial goal, if I'm being honest. $50,000 is not a huge amount of money. So I can't see them having many issues securing that funding, but I personally want them to, you know, knock the ball out of the park in this. I really, really do want them to reach the very last stretch goal, purely because of this. For $75,000, they will add a giant insect expansion pack to the game, which is going to be awesome. To have giant insects in your game as, well, zoo creatures would be amazing. It really would. It's something I really do want to see, and I'm curious to see what they add. I really am. For $100,000, you get an improved visitor mode and attraction viewing mode. Now, earlier I mentioned the different modes, but I didn't really talk about it much. This game has got a variety of different modes. You've got a visitor mode where you can walk around your park as a visitor, which is obviously pretty cool, but I doubt it's too complex, hence the 100,000 improved visitor mode. I'm guessing they will kind of dive into that a lot more and make it a little bit more pleasurable to play as. You've obviously got the general park manager mode where you build your park, etc, etc, etc. That's the Tycoon mode. But then you've also got a mode where you can, I don't know if you can control the dinosaurs, but you can follow them around, and that's really cool because the models are amazing. Getting up close to the dinosaurs, seeing how they interact with each other, how they behave, is just really fascinating. It really is. So having 100,000 would be brilliant. It really would. And the last two, you got 150,000 for a massive aquatic update. I'd love to see that. I really would. To see a lot more aquatic creatures in the game would be brilliant. And finally, for 175,000, an aerial expansion pack will be made, similar to the massive aquatic update, but for aerial creatures, obviously. Again, I would love to see that. I really would. I can't wait for this game. I really do hope it does well on the Kickstarter. All of the links I can possibly find for this game will be posted in the description, including the Kickstarter page, the Facebook page, their forums, their website, and their Twitch page. So keep that in mind. All in the description. But that's really it for this. I can't wait for the game to come out. It looks stunning. The models are stunning. The menu was stunning when I played it originally. And I can't wait for the closed alpha. And I'm definitely going to be pledging some money to this game. I really am. And I suggest you guys do the same if you want it to succeed as well. But that's really it for this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these from now on. I enjoy doing them. It's a good lesson for myself, and it's a good way to introduce you guys to new games, as well as introducing myself, really. So I'm definitely going to keep doing them. But that's it for this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. See ya.